Basically, he guilty, but he don't want to say it. Hey y'all, welcome and or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another true crime episode. So if you're ready, let's go. Okay, so my nails are not done today because I was supposed to braid my hair today or yesterday, but as y'all can see, plans changed and I didn't do it. And I also didn't do my nails. So I really don't have nothing to show y'all, and I really don't have much to say before this case starts. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and jump right into today's case. And today we're going to be talking about the Pizza Plus murders. Pizza Plus murders. So Harvey Dean Looney and Valerie Elaine Looney was a couple from the Richland area of Virginia who got married in 1980 and then in 1981 had their first and only child, who was a son that they named Christopher. And by all accounts, this was the quintessential couple. They were hard workers, they was active in their church and their community, they was loved by pretty much everybody, and above everything else, they were amazing parents. This was the type of couple, more so Valerie than Harvey, who liked to spoil their kids or their child because they only had one. But any and everything that Christopher wanted growing up, Valerie was gonna get it for him. And if she didn't have it, she was gonna find a way to get it for him. And that's exactly how she wanted it. In fact, one of her friends even said that when Christopher was born, she told Valerie that he was gonna be spoiled rotten, and Valerie was like, that's how I want it to be. And like I said, this is a couple who was loved by all of their community, and it was a pretty small community, so everybody pretty much knew everybody and everybody loved the Loonies. So that's why on March 30th 2009, when the Loonies should have been celebrating their 29th wedding anniversary, the town was shook when they was found dead by a co-worker at Pizza Plus in Claypool Hill. So like I said, it's the morning of March 30th 2009, and their co-worker Mary is coming in for her regularly scheduled shift at the Pizza Plus. Initially, everything seems okay until she made it to the kitchen area where she would find Valerie lying in a pool of blood. Now, I'm not really sure why she went towards the back, like why she kept going towards the back of the pizza shop, because me personally, I would have hightailed the back out the front door after I seen that, but she didn't, and she went to the back of the restaurant where she found Harvey outside in the back of the building, also lying in a pool of blood. And after discovering the bodies of Valerie and Harvey, Mary frantically called 911, and when officers arrived, they find a very gruesome scene. Blood was everywhere. Valerie's throat had been cut, and it appeared that she had been bludgeoned as well. And Harvey's throat was cut also, but it didn't appear that he had been bludgeoned. And looking around, it would appear as though this was a robbery gone wrong. At least that's what investigators' initial thought was, because the money was gone from the cash register, so that only seemed right. But even though they thought this was a robbery gone wrong, they found it weird that the money had been taken from the cash register. However, Harvey still had a bunch of money in his wallet. And they found that kind of weird that the person or people who committed this crime wouldn't have capitalized off of what his victims or the people that he was robbing may have had also. But nonetheless, it appeared to be a robbery gone wrong. Maybe they didn't intend to kill Valerie and Harvey, but things went awry, and after they killed them, they didn't even think about the money that they might have had. They didn't know. But as they was looking around the crime scene, they started noticing other things that was a little bit odd to them, like the fact that the fire extinguisher had lots of blood on it as well. And not just blood spatter, but it appeared as though the fire extinguisher was what Valerie was bludgeoned with. But what was weird about that was the fact that the fire extinguisher wasn't just tossed off to the side or just thrown anywhere. Whoever had done this put the fire extinguisher back in the place where it belonged. So it was hanging up on the wall. But typically in cases like this, when someone is bludgeoning somebody with something, either they take the item with them or they just toss it off to the side somewhere because they frantic, they in a frenzy, they in a hurry. They don't got time to be trying to hang up a fire extinguisher or whatever, you know? So the investigators thought that that was a little weird, but nonetheless, they continue around the crime scene. And they also noticed that it appears as though someone had mopped their way the out of the pizza place, and the mop wasn't just tossed off to the side either. It was positioned properly right up against the back door as per usual. It was just weird. And so these two things in combination made the detectives feel like whoever did this was familiar with the Pizza Plus, like possibly a current employee or potentially a former disgruntled employee. So they go and talk to Mary and a couple of the other Pizza Plus employees, and they wanted to know if potentially maybe had Valerie pissed some employees off or something like that, because Valerie was the manager at the Pizza Plus, and it said that she didn't take no shit. She was nice, but she was stern, and she meant what she said. So maybe she had recently fired somebody who wanted retaliation against her. But in conducting those interviews, everybody said that no, there was nobody that they could think of who Valerie had pissed off. But they did learn that the deposit bag was taken and that there was checks taken as well, which for them confirmed the robbery theory. Now, even though all of the other employees said that there wasn't another employee that Valerie might have pissed off, they did note that there was a dude who worked at the car wash across the street or next door, I think. I think it was next door to the Pizza Plus. Either way, the dude at the car wash, he was a little sketchy. He would like sit there and stare at the Pizza Plus and he would just be a little off. He made some people uncomfortable. And so detectives went to go talk to the dude at the car wash. However, he had an alibi and that lead just didn't pan out at all. Obviously, they had to call Chris and tell him the news about his parents and also eliminate him as a suspect, because as we all know, a lot of people are murdered by people who they know and the people who are closest to them. So they had to kill two birds with one stone: notify Chris and eliminate him as a suspect. And when they brought Christopher in, they learned that he was living with his parents at the time. And he said that night his parents was at work per usual and he was at home per usual. Now, he wasn't worried when they didn't come home because the next day was March 30th. And on March 30th, that was their wedding anniversary. And his dad told him that they was going to be going away for their anniversary. So them not being home when he woke up wasn't a surprise to him because he had already expected them to be gone. All of this stuff made sense to the detectives, so they let Chris go. Now, over the next couple of days, tips was rolling in, and one of those tips came in from a jailhouse snitch who said that he had gotten information from somebody else in the jail, and they said that the Pizza Plus was robbed by two men and a lady. However, when detectives followed up on that lead, it didn't pan out either. So now they was back at square one. But by this time, the DNA analysis had come back from the crime scene as well as the autopsy reports. And the autopsy reports showed that in addition to her throat being cut, Valerie had been stabbed multiple times and she had defensive wounds on her hands and arms. So she was trying to fight her attacker. It was also shown that she had a cracked skull and bleeding on the brain, which was consistent with them believing that she was bludgeoned by the fire extinguisher. Now, Harvey's autopsy was a little bit different because in addition to his throat being cut, he did not have any defensive wounds. He never saw his attack coming, but it did reveal that he had been choked. But surprisingly, him being choked and his throat being cut was not his cause of death. His actual cause of death was from a heart attack, because during the struggle from being choked, he ended up having a heart attack and dying, and his throat had been cut post-mortem. As for the DNA that was collected, all of that blood turned out to be Harvey's, Valerie's, or a mix of both. So they didn't have any blood evidence from their attacker, which obviously not helpful. So now, despite an extensive investigation and following and eliminating lead after lead after lead, the case kind of was at a standstill for the next 2 years. But then another tip from inside the jail came. But y'all know, we just heard how the last tip from inside the jail went. So let's see how this one goes. So another tip comes in from jail, and this comes in from a man named James Casey. And James Casey said that he got this information from his cellmate because his cellmate was out here bragging about committing these murders. And his cellie's name was David Matheny. So the detectives got James to agree to wear a wire and catch David, bragging and talking about this crime, right? So James go back to his cell and try to get David to talk about the murders. And David did not disappoint. David was just running his mouth, talking chit chat, and telling all of his business. And you can hear him on the recording saying that he went in right when they was about to close, and that he robbed the place, he killed Harvey and Valerie. But he said that Valerie was struggling. He said that she was fighting and she wouldn't die. So he had to go back inside to make sure that she was dead. And he also went back in to wipe stuff down to make sure that he didn't leave no traces of himself having committed the crime. Right? And all of this is sounding real good because it's making sense. It's adding up to it's just adding up. So after hearing this on the recording, detectives went in and snatched him right up out of his cell and bring him down for questioning. However, when David got into the interrogation room, he denied everything. He said he don't know what the hell they talking about. And the detectives had to pull their ace like, listen here, bruh. We got you on recording saying everything. So what do you mean you had no involvement? This you, right? And David was like, okay, look, yes, I said all of those things, but I was just trying to look hard. I was intimidated by these people. They murderers. They doing all kind of stuff that I don't do. And I knew that this investigation wasn't closed yet. So I put my name on it because they not about to hold me in jail. And then David ended up revealing the fact that he was on house arrest when this crime took place. He was at home. So he couldn't have been at the Pizza Plus. Otherwise, his PO, is it his PO? Is the POs the ones who put him on house arrest? I really don't know nothing about the jail system and how that works, but whoever it was, they would have known that he wasn't at home when he was supposed to be at home. So, yeah. And so the detectives go to check this out. And in fact, David was on house arrest and he was at home during the time of the murders. And he just was trying to look hard for his fellow inmates. So, yet again, the detectives are at another standstill in this case. But then another year later, so this is now 3 years after the murders, the police department the detectives decide, or I don't know who decided it, but together collectively, it was decided that this case would be reopened and that they would start from the beginning. They was about to look at old interviews. They was about to talk to old people. They was about to talk to new people. They was gonna start from the beginning and try to do it better. And they started with Chris's ex. I don't know if they started with her for real, but one of the people that they interviewed or re-interviewed was Chris's ex. And this is the mother of his child. And she said that while she and Chris was in a relationship, he was always borrowing money from his parents and that he was never really self-sufficient. She also said that after she and Chris broke up, she maintained a relationship with Valerie and Harvey. And that one time while Valerie and Harvey was over there visiting with their grandbaby, Harvey told her that Chris had threatened to not let him and Valerie see their grandchild no more if they didn't let him borrow $900. And this happened 3 weeks prior to them being murdered. So next they went and talked to Valerie's best friend named Lynn. And Lynn told the detectives that Chris had been physically violent towards Valerie before in the past and that he had caused some bruising on her. And anytime that she would ask Valerie what happened or if Chris did this, Valerie would deny it for a little while, and then eventually she would tell her that yeah, Chris did it but he didn't mean it type thing. So essentially it appeared as though Valerie was in a domestically abusive relationship with her son. And just like in most domestic relationships, Valerie will always make excuses for Chris or say he didn't mean it, or she just never wanted to accept the fact that her son was abusive to her. And so now with this information, detectives are really getting geeked because they said that Chris had always been a suspect because he had the most motive, which was $260,000 if his parents had passed away. But they never really had anything to prove that he did anything, right? So now these little pieces are starting to come together, and now they want to talk to Chris again. And this time they hoping that he say some incriminating stuff. Boy, does he say some incriminating stuff. Now, I do got a little bit of footage of his interrogation interview. So I'm only going to play a portion of it. But if y'all want to see the whole thing, I got all of this footage from True Red Crime Vault, I think. Yeah. On their YouTube channel. I will put a link to the full video in the description box because yeah, Chris says some crazy stuff.
Serious. I understand what you said earlier, but can you tell me about what time you went down there?
11 o'clock.
Okay. What started the argument?
Just money.
Money problem. Okay. All right. What happened after that?
That's why I got on mom. Cut her.
Okay. What'd you cut her with?
No knife.
So as y'all can see, he confessed. Chris did it. Chris killed his mama and his daddy for some money. And for the life of me, this is something that I will never understand. Because the way I would give my left pinky toe and my right ring finger to have my mama back, ain't no way I can ever understand killing your parents. Nonetheless, Chris did it. Chris killed his mama and his daddy for some money. And it all made sense now because remember when I told y'all in the beginning of the investigation, they felt like it was somebody who knew Pizza Plus, like maybe an employee or an ex-employee. Well, Chris used to work at Pizza Plus. So he knew that they used to mop themselves out the back door, which is what he did. And like everything started to make sense. But yeah, on February 13th, 2013, Chris was arrested and charged with the capital murder of his parents. And he decided to plead no contest. So basically he's saying he not guilty, but they got enough evidence that would convict him if he went to trial. Basically, he guilty, but he don't want to say it. And so a year later, on July 23rd, 2014, Christopher was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. And the only reason that he got life without the possibility of parole and not the death penalty was because despite the fact that he killed their family members, Valerie's family and Harvey's family did not want to see him put to death. And they are way more forgiving than I am because off with his head, okay? But they said they didn't want to see him put to death though because it's what Valerie would have wanted. Because they said that Valerie loved Christopher so much that even though he killed her, she would have forgiven him if she could. And that's really what makes this case so much worse because they weren't terrible parents who abused him growing up, who neglected him and did all kinds of bullshit. Like, no, these were very loving and caring parents. What an asshole. Anyways, y'all, that is all I have for today's case. Thank you all so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. I don't like the way I said that, but I'm not gonna do it again. Okay, so my nails ain't done today because so Harvey Dean Looney and his wife Valerie Elaine Looney were a couple. Well, obviously they was a couple because I just said his wife named Dean Christopher. Is it Christopher Dean? It's Christopher. And everybody loved the Loonies. And out the back door, was the back door open? Like the fact that I said the fire hydrant. Oh no. Now Harvey's off top. Okay. So David go back to his, no. So James go back to his cell and you can hear him on the children. Scared shit out of me. And so a year later on July 14th, 2014, the 23rd. Okay.